Here we have 10 iconic designer fragrances that have transformed the industry. It seems like every few years a fragrance will come out that will be so popular that will inspire the release of other fragrances. And I'm not just talking about flankers, but that will be a trendsetter within the industry. That's what we're talking about today. 10 fragrances that have been so pivotal for the industry. I'm excited to let you know what I think they are, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin today's episode and I tell you about these 10 designer fragrances that have been so pivotal for the industry, they have inspired so many wonderful trends, and without them, the industry wouldn't be what it is today. I do want to start the video off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or if you took something of value from today's episode. It would really mean a lot to me. Now, of course, all 10 of these fragrances, in my opinion, are highly pivotal, and they've all done some really wonderful things within the industry, and the industry wouldn't be what it is today if it weren't for these fragrances. However, it's not only 10 fragrances that have transformed the industry, it's hundreds, if not more. So I'm just focusing on these 10 for the time being. Of course, with that being said, perhaps even before we begin the video, I want you to drop your comment down below and let me know what fragrance in your opinion has been so important for the fragrance industry, that without this one fragrance, the industry would not be what it is today. Leave your comments down below. I'm always curious to know what your opinion is regarding that, and potentially it could influence the curation of a second part to this video, right? Once I read through all of your comments, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and I forgot about that, and whatever else. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first fragrance I really want to talk about is actually a 1992 release by Jean-Paul Guerlain, and this one is called Héritage, or Heritage by Guerlain. I was actually smelling it before. Oh, it's so classic with the sandalwood and the patchouli and the lavender. There's carnation in here. There's a bit of geranium as well. This one, if it weren't for it being released, it kind of took a lot of these elements, like the green, earthy elements. It's a woody spicy, by the way, but it modernized them. So it was almost like it was safe to say, it was okay to say, you can take patchouli, you can take oak moss, you can take these ingredients and put a modern, fresh spin on them. And Heritage is just such a beautiful fragrance. Guerlain has so many hits, including Vetiver and including so many other fragrances. And more recently, of course, the La Médiale saga. I love the La Médiale fragrances. But here we also have a flanker of an original, and I should have probably featured the original, but I think they both will work quite nicely in this list. This couple is Dior Homme and Dior Homme Intense. Now, Dior Homme, it took the iris note and it basically made it one of these gender bender ingredients. As a matter of fact, it kind of masculinized it, right? It said, here, guys can wear iris. And it's an ingredient that smells like lipstick, of all things. Now this, in my opinion, was an even more daring expression because it sweetened things up. You have the cocoa, you have the vanilla, you have the creaminess of tonka bean, you have the musk mallow. So it's a very sweet sort of a fragrance while still having that lipstick-like iris note in here. So I personally find this one to be really, really interesting. Now the next one, I know it's going to be a little controversial, but it's actually Dior's Sauvage. Now, Dior Sauvage has done some amazing things in the industry. And of course, it's been out for about a decade now. But in the decade that it's been around, it's actually transformed the industry in a very, very positive way. I know there was a lot of money being poured into the advertising campaign of Dior Sauvage with Johnny Depp's face plastered on billboards and commercials and stuff like that. But truth be told, Ambroxan, Sichuan pepper, black pepper, musk, fresh notes, bergamot, this fragrance with that bright citrusy, zingy, metallic opening, it's such an iconic fragrance. And we've seen Versace Pour Homme Dylan Blue, we've seen Elysium by Roja Parfum, we've seen Ambassador for Men by Gisada. We've seen so many fragrances come out that kind of have that Sauvage-like personality, and Sauvage has been a trailblazer, right? And it continues to be popular for very good reasons. Of course, we have one that preceded it, and it's Bleu de Chanel. Now, the original Eau de Toilette made it the staple fragrance that every man must own. It's almost like if you don't have Bleu de Chanel in your collection, do you even have a collection, right? That's kind of the vibe that one would get at times, right? I love the Eau de Toilette. I've had it for so many years. It's been such an amazing fragrance in my opinion, and this is kind of like the benchmark classy office fragrance, right? Of course, with it predating Dior Sauvage, it's like if you're looking for something that is very smooth, very easygoing, Bleu de Chanel was always the answer for that. Of course, this list would not be complete without the early 90s or mid 90s release, I should say, by Jacques Coutlier. This one is Angel for Men or Amen by Thierry Mugler. This fragrance with that tar note, the caramel, the patchouli, the ethyl maltol, that caramel-like sort of a personality with that cotton candy vibe that you get in the dry down. Now, of course, the first Gourmand is the Women's Angel, which was composed by Olivier Cresp. And that particular fragrance with the caramel and the patchouli and the sweetness was just done so beautifully. And for them to release a men's version at the same time that we were getting fragrances like L'Eau de Ses Pour Hommes by Issey Miyake, and Acqua di Gio by Giorgio Armani, they were released right around the same time. Those are fresh fragrances. Here we had the opposite of that, a fragrance that was really robust, rich, sweet, gourmand. And of course, we also have Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. I think both the men's and the women's versions were so really popular and really powerful as well. They were so, responsible for such a change in the industry, but a very positive change. And with Light Blue, it almost gave like this fresh, clean, vibrant, laid-back, oceanic quality. Acqua di Gio did that as well, but I feel like there were some other aquatics that preceded Acqua di Gio, which is why I didn't feature it in this particular list, but I think it had a lot to do with transforming the industry. Of course, we also have Dior Fahrenheit. Come on now. Fahrenheit with that violet leaf, the petrol vibe, the burning rubber, the asphalt, all these other descriptors that people use to describe the smell of Fahrenheit. The industry wouldn't be what it is today without Fahrenheit. A lot of people continue to say Fahrenheit is still the most masculine fragrance that they've smelled, right? A lot of times people think of masculinity, they think of oak moss and fir balsam and pine resin and patchouli and woods, cedar or whatever. But this fragrance with that leathery vibe and that slightly smoky quality, it's so unique. And then of course we have Le Mal by Jean-Paul Gaultier. Now, of course, composed by Francis Kirkjohn, this fragrance, mint, lavender, and vanilla. For a lot of people, it is the epitome of a barbershop fragrance, right? So many other fragrances have been released since then, including Reflection for Men by Amouage, that have kind of taken that DNA and put their own twist on it. But this is the original, and this is such an iconic, mass-marketed, mass-appealing fragrance that despite the fact that it was released, in the mid-90s, it still does just as well today as it used to back in the day, and it's almost 30 years old. Of course, we have the clubbing fragrance. This one is 1 Million by Paco Rabanne. And of course, with that bubblegum vibe that it gives across, the sweetness that's in here, 1 Million is such an iconic fragrance. Nobody can take its reputation away from it. And since the release of 1 Million, we've seen 1 Million Privé, 1 Million Lucky, 1 Million Intense, 1 Million Absolutely Gold, 1 Million whatever, right? The new one with the ruby or garnet, Royal, it's called. I had to look at it off the side there, to the side. But 1 Million is the clubbing fragrance. Since then, we've had like Invictus, and we've had like Phantom, and we've had a lot of other releases by Paco Rabanne, but 1 Million was the original. And of course, this fragrance, without its release in the late 80s, I don't know what would have happened, right? This fragrance has truly pioneered the genre. We've seen so many inspirations of it. It's none other than Davidoff's Cool Water, 1988 release, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, right around the time that Fahrenheit was released. But since then, we've had Giorgio Beverly Hills has a fragrance that smells like it. We have Cody by Aspen. And as a matter of fact, Pierre Bourdon composed Green Irish Tweed by Creed 3 years before Cool Water came out. So I could have very well put Cool Water on this list, but this is a designer list, and Cool Water is one of those iconic fragrances. It's like Curve by Liz Claiborne, right? When I was in high school, everybody wore it, right? Such an iconic fragrance, a fresh fragrance, aquatic, K-Lone, such an amazing release, and without it, we wouldn't have the aquatic genre today, and I can co-sign that. That is, a very accurate statement. Cool water has been absolutely necessary and absolutely pivotal to the evolution of the industry. So, what do you think? 10 fragrances, 10 designer fragrances that transform the industry in a positive way. Leave your comment down below. What are the fragrances that you would go ahead and mention in this list? If there are any that I missed, I would be more than happy to do a part 2 or a part 3 or whatever. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it, hit the bell, and give this video a thumbs up. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.